Hey everyone, Corrie here coming in to do the weekly channel message for April the 25th, 2022. Did anyone just see that little down behind my back there? That was interesting. So there is a lot of energy. We have a lot happening. We're just coming into eclipse season. We have retrogrades and we have new moon. We have a lot of things that are unfolding. We have a lot of energy happening in the world. We have the good, bad, and the ugly. There is a lot of things that are that we cannot any longer turn a blind eye to. I was downstairs in my kitchen earlier, and as I'm walking by, I just kind of had that. It was almost like I heard this chuckle, and I heard this chuckle from spirit, and just like, one time there was a, how was it went? So one time there was a time when we could kind of be oblivious to some of the things that's going on in the world. And now everything is within our vision. So we cannot deny some of the things that are happening, and we are witnessing some in our face type of obvious things that are unfolding, but also still turning a blind eye or saying, no, that just can't be happening. There's a lot of shit that's unfolding out there. There's a lot of things that are happening, and they're undeniable. We can't deny that there's something now to know exactly. Oh my freaking God, my cat decides to clean herself in front. Leia, inappropriate. Thank you. And of course, these are not edited. I don't edit these because I don't want to mess with any of the message. They're not meant to be edited. They're meant to be as is. So we leave them. I don't know what the cat cleaning herself got to do. Inappropriate. How about inappropriate? Okay, so there is a lot of things that are very inappropriate, but made acceptable. We've made bad behavior acceptable. We've made it so that the things that feel like it's like very should not be happening, or that we should be more dignified in the actions that happen within our world, but it's not, and not you personally, but as a world energy. So when I was picking up this message earlier, it was just saying, like when we look back through life and we look at how small our world used to be, but now our world is big, and we see all the things that are happening. We know so much. And we almost like we know too much. We are too exposed. We have so much knowledge, and we have so much information. And there's many versions of truths, right? There's his, hers, and then there's the truth, or there's this, that, and then there's another truth. And so the truth is truly in the eye of the beholder. So these messages that are coming in today I had to really I pull out the good tarot, and that we have to find the good and the light, and that sense of our finding the good, and finding the nuggets to really hold on to. And that's what this week's message is about, that no matter what our challenging times are, no matter what's happening around us, to find that nugget, to find that truth. What is the one truth that you can live with, but not having to put a blinder onto, or to shut down other truths. It's like, I know there's other truth. This is the only truth this is the truth that I'm going to sit with for now. And so for now. And so we have a lot of that for now. What can I accept for now until I find out a new truth? Or what can I take until further in, when I can learn more, when I can discover more. So we do have a lot of golden energy also here. We have a lot of magic and miracles that is still taking place. And I was picking that up, I think, in last week's message as well. But we also have a conversation around boundaries that are coming up. And we're being told to be aware of our boundaries, to know that no matter how much people want us or need us, that sometimes we have to, step back and just go, why was I making these choices and decisions? Why was I doing these things? What was the purpose, my why, to why I was creating a sacred space, a space that was mine, why I had made some of the choices and decisions, and why am I falling back in them? So there's areas of our lives where we may have been making choices and decisions that we just knew were good for the soul. Like they were good for the growth, for the development, for the relationship between ourselves and our soul self, that connection to coming into our own truth. And then with wanting to become more coexist together, to be there for each other, to be able to help, to be able to be of service, finding ourselves weakening those boundaries and making those boundaries kind of really porous and weak, and being really guided back to what was the purpose and what was the soul divine why behind why you had to create some of those and why you were making that space, because you still want to keep that what is sacred still has to be maintained as sacred. So looking in and picking up those nuggets of self and finding that energy of you and that truth of you is really truly an awareness of, hey, yeah, this has changed. So what has changed since I've made more time and space for me? What has changed since I work less? What has changed? What was it I noticed within myself that I was feeling that I was actually enjoying and liking about myself? And now, as we're being told, like, let's get back into the world, or let's do this again, or, oh, we should all be of service. And the more that you're hearing that, what is seeping back in is responding from that response of guilt again. It's being guilted into or feeling obligated, feeling like you have to do something that your body is just saying no, because we stopped doing that for a reason. What was the reason, and what was it you seen and noticed within that kept you moving forward with creating that boundary? Boundaries, those boundaries don't mean that you shut out the world altogether. It just means there was a why to why you draw a sand in the ground. I remember when I was hairstyling, when I was working in the aesthetics and hairstyling industry, when I was in the beauty industry, and Saturdays were wedding days all summer long. And I had a lot of Saturday clients who worked all week and then would come on Saturdays. And I had to make that choice and decision when I finally realized that I had spent over 20 years of my life working Saturdays and never having that freedom to have weekends off without pre-planning them months and ahead, never being able to be spontaneous, never being able to just get up and go on a Saturday with other people. So really, truly missing out on a lot of things that would happen on a weekend. And when I made that choice and decision that Saturdays were going to be, that I was going to stop working on Saturdays, it came with that backlash of, well, now what will I do? So there was a lot of that whole unintentional guilt. And it was like, oh my God, maybe I'll lose my clients, or maybe they'll be gone. But now you're not available for weddings. But what about my wedding? What about this wedding? What about that wedding? And if I had to go back and say yes to every one of those weddings, I would have worked all summer. If I had to say yes to the clients that could previously come on a Saturday, then I would have been saying yes to them and no to me again. And not that I didn't care about the people, but I had to start to have a deeper level of compassion for myself, having a relationship with the essence of the soul self. So looking at that and exploring that from where I am now, there was so much fear and guilt, and it was being led by that. But in the end, as it started to be that I was not available, and I learned the power of my no's and just saying, no, that's not a day that I work. I am not available. It was amazing because, weddings didn't change, but there was other people who could accommodate and make that happen, who maybe were early in their career or loved working Saturdays. So that could still happen. The world didn't end. The wedding didn't stop because I wasn't going to be there. I don't have that big of an ego to think that there's no that wedding wouldn't happen without me. and as for the other clients, and 80% of them found their way into being able to make it work another day, another time, and 20% fell away. And so you'd lose the 20%, and you'd still have that 80% of that clientele at a different time. But now I was giving back to myself an extra, say, 20%. So I was giving back to myself a percentage that I didn't have, or an experience of just having the freedom that I didn't have. Now bring that into your story, and whatever and wherever that lays. Are you over invested and over involved in volunteering in too many things, or being a part of too many organizations? Have you taken on too much? Where did you give your all, and feeling like obligated? It's like, well, if I don't do it, nobody will. Who will take care of it? Somebody will. That whole sense of, if I don't, nobody will, that falls into our martyr complex, right? And that need to be needed, or the need to be, or that guilty, or that, that guilty living that we do, being so reactive and responding from guilt or from shame or anything else. And it trails all the way back. That's a huge part of More Than Existing and my More Than Existing programs, is to truly look at, is to explore the why to why we do those things, and why, and not even recognizing how powerful that is in the creating of self and to the roles that you play, and you believe it to just be your truth. And that also then weakens the boundaries, but that we have, of holding ourselves as one of the most important relationships you're going to have. And it's truth. And so the card that's coming up is the Two of Water, and it was in reverse. So it was telling me in the good tarot that, it's like, are you like a fish out of water? When, when you're put in a situation, when you're put in a circumstance of where you have to say yes to you and no to others, when you have to hold that line and hold that sacred space and that sacred energy within. And so as the world is coming back, and as we're stepping back out into the world, and as the world is opening up, I've had to recognize that too. And so the why behind some of the choices and decisions we made was not because the world shut down, is because we were shutting down ourselves, because we've been overextending ourselves in areas where we just don't have enough gas in our tanks. So what we're recognizing and what we're connecting to is more and more of that we are energy. And where do I have the energy? What energy do I have to give to this? And is this something I really want to go back to doing? And so where do you want to be? How do you want to live this next phase of your life? And knowing that we're coming into being restored into a sense of joy and happiness within ourselves. So those nuggets and those good things we're seeking is in what did you gain from those experiences? What did you gain from that time with yourself? What were you noticing was very different for you in the experience of being with you? And that is what we're trying, this is a part of that ascension, like transcending beyond how we would have responded from fear. So we're moving beyond fear and into faith and hope, right? And so that fear story has such a strong hold, but fear would be the first, fear of losing people, or fear of having people angry at you, or fear of disappointing people, or whatever it may be. But that fear is now, that is the stories of the past. And I've been saying for days, I feel like I have a little bit of PTSD from where I have been in the dark night of the soul, of what was the call for me to create all the programs that I've created through More Than Existing, through writing all of my books, that it was like I was really put into like be human, that I couldn't stay being like a superhuman. I couldn't keep giving the way I was giving. I couldn't keep doing the way that I was doing life. And I was put through the ringer in the human emotions and the human experience to really, truly, what was I fighting for? Was I fighting for the popularity or the to make other people happy? Because in the end, when I did have to walk away from that career, from that life, when I could no longer stand, and now I'm sitting waiting for surgery, when I could no longer stand and do that job anymore, in the end, when I left and walked away, is when you really truly discovered everyone was just fine without you. And everybody moved on just fine. But the amount of the percentage of people that you stay in contact with, or that will constantly check on you, or will stay in your life and follow the other parts of your life, goes down to that 80-20 again. But this time it was on the other side. And knowing that, and that is not anything against you, that is that everybody is living their lives. Most people are trying to do what is best for them. And you have to remember the value and the importance in doing what will be best for me, what will be for my highest good, what is going to serve my soul purpose within myself. Your whole soul purpose is to be the best human that you can be. And that is for you. And that is also then others reap the rewards and the benefits. And my life is still full and my life is abundant, as is yours maybe, or yours will be, without falling back. So we're not here to fall back now into old habits or old ways. We're not here to say, oh, I better catch up on what I didn't get done. And I felt myself doing it. And so you may feel yourself doing it as well. So catching it, aware of it. And this is where the eclipse really, truly brings us into that energy, to know this for ourselves, to recognize it, to see it, to acknowledge it, to find and seek ways to heal beyond it. If you don't know how to do it on your own, reach out to me. Go to CorrieThorne.com, go to More Than Existing Academy. So many things in there that can really help. Many courses coming up that may be of service to you. We have the 8 of Fire. And so the 8 of Fire is on the back of the panda, and that beautiful panda. You know, pandas appear to be so sweet, so lovable, and because they're gentle, they're like that gentle bear, but they still belong in the wild, right? There's still this wild energy that goes with them. And so even though we may feel like we want things to be tame, or we want to be tame, or we want to have like to be a controlled environment, or a controlled life, a controlled world, is ultimately what we always seek, though, is to be free and to have that sense of freedom. Freedom and peace go together. That wildness of us, the primal of us, the ability for our body to want to just run and be free and not to be so obligated, so tied down, so structured, so strict, that's what causes us to be like, yeah, so much in our lives. And we're like, and so then we're always seeking for areas to be free, and areas of our lives of where we can be what we call be ourselves. I want to be myself. I only want to be me. I don't want to be trapped. I don't want to be. And so really paying attention to the language that you use, that all represents that sense of being restricted, constrained, struggling. All of those things are all tied into something is owning you, your thoughts, and your emotions. Now, is it somebody of the past? Is it the fear itself, or is it the response and the reaction that follows the fear story? Is it that what's capturing you? Excuse me. Holy, there's something that's just saying, like really truly pay attention to this. 8 also represents that infinity, right? Like 8 goes, it's never ending. It's that, and so when we look at that 8 and we look at that infinity and we look at, what's the continual, what is, what is it that's been a continual story for infinity? We're not here forever as this one human. You got this one human time. You have, an infinity, eternity as the soul self, but the soul came to be in relationship with your human. And so this human connection and this human being that you are is being told that we're coming into a time of being now, really restoring. 4 years ago when I was writing More Than Existing, and 3 years ago when it was finally released, whenever all this really happened, the book was released during the COVID times, during the lockdown times. And when the book was released, when More Than Existing was released, That's literally what it's called, more than existing. I'm finding joy and happiness no matter the cost. Well, I could never have known, nor would I ever had known that right now where we are would have been a time through this eclipse, through this energy, through the planet's alignment, that it actually is that restoring as a part of our ascension through this chain of ascension that we've been going through the past few years, of where we've been dismantling and breaking down. And now it's saying, don't let yourself go back to those old ways and those old patterns. And that we'd be right here in that sense of now, as my second book is being ready to release, My Truth Beyond the Reflection, that this now part is actually about restoring the happy genes, the joy genes, the things that we also have as human beings, the ability to laugh, the ability to be free, not so restricted, not so stuck in the systems, not so systematic to this and that. And I always see this in spirituality all the time, and it pisses me off because I'm like, the last thing you wanted was to be in a box. And the moment you get into the spiritualities, you want to put it in a box, and you want people to get in the box, and you want people to conform to your way of thinking or the way you do it. And it's like, no, more than existing was about strengthening your ability to trust your own free will. Don't act like me. Don't be like me. It pisses me off when someone tries to be like me. And it doesn't piss me off because you're trying to be like me. It pisses me off because if you could see what I can see of you, you would never, ever want to be me, because you would see the spectacular self of that beautiful, sparkly, wild and free soul self that exists within you, and the possibilities for your authentic, beautiful self. And so requiring and demanding and making people feel guilty, or putting pressure on people that this is the stages, this is the way it is, this is how it's done, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. And if you were on my last live on Facebook and YouTube, you would have heard me speak about this last week. I was talking about this, I think. Yeah. So I think it was Thursday or Friday. Just go back to those videos and you can, and I'm talking about that. And I'm talking about, we spent a lifetime getting out, but because you're so programmed and conditioned to be in the box throughout life, not even like so unconsciously coming into places where spirituality is about freedom. It is not about having that mindset that, oh my God, am I doing this right? Is there something right? It's about trusting your own instinctual self. Is about trusting the channeling messages, or trusting your intuition. It's about trusting the do whatever it is that's coming up. And knowing that if we do it from a place without manipulation, without the fear stories, without malice, without, being malicious in any way, if we do it from a pure heart, pure intentions for the highest good, from the super parts of our ego, the healthy parts of the ego, from the healthy, healed self, then we're doing it in alignment to the light and to the love. And it's not in somebody's conformed messages of, here's your check box, now you better check that off. And no, you can't use that language, or you can't use that word. No, that's not allowed. That's not yours to use, because that only belongs to this category of people or that category of people. And these are all restrictions and restraints that I'm speaking of. And we're finding, those systems, they're built on broken foundations, weak foundations, and they're not strength and strong, because what it does, even when it wants to come into our world, then it wants to spread its virus of control and fear, and all thinking alike, and all be alike, and all become alike. And so what happens in that type of world? You become suppressed. Joy and happiness has gone out the window, and as is your freedom. So this sense of freedom and redefining ourselves to recognize how much that we put ourselves back into that restraints, that constructed life, not freeing ourselves from that sense of being caught up, that we will be in another loop. We'll be in a repeat. And it's time for us to get out of those repeats, right? And so then we have the 8 of water. So it's funny, we have a 2. We have 2 of water. We have the fire right here in the very middle, in this now energy. And she's coming out of the wood. She's the light. There was a light that was shining up, that when we can trust our intuition and our primal instincts to be able to guide us, that we have an inner compass, we have guides and guardians to watch over us, and angelic realms, that we will find our way. We might get a little bit lost, and that's okay. We might lose some people along the way, having to say yes to ourselves. That's okay. We may end up in a situation where it's like, oh God, like here's my guilt, but do I want to go back to making all my choices and decisions out of guilt? No, I don't. So don't do it. Be aware that this is where our attention is going, but it's also bringing in another 8, which brings in the 8 of water. So we have the fire, we have the passion, we have that sense of really truly coming from that heart. And then we have with the 8 of water, it was in reverse. So we have this fear of not having or not being liked, or not having the people in our lives. Do we want to dig our own graves, right? Do we want to dig ourselves back into a hole, back into the old world, back into the way things were? Do we really want to go back there? And no, we want to go the other direction, because if we go back, we're missing the treasures and what we've learned from these experiences, what we are gaining from these moments and times. We're born of these times. It's where we're supposed to be. And what we're learning from this, and what we should know to never repeat, and the power of having those boundaries, and the why we place them. And I don't mean walls. I mean these boundaries that you can say, you know what, I have to think about this before I make this choice and decision. I have to do this before that. I have to be sure that I am not responding out of the old mindset, the old way that I did things, and that I'm doing it a different way. I'm really truly thinking about myself, think about my story in the Saturdays, and remember that, right? And so finding my happiness and my joy really truly it opened up, because what I started to do when I stopped working Saturdays way back when was I went and bought myself a camper, and I went camping. And then I figured out that was work by dragging it around. So then I got a permanent lot, and I put it on a lot, just like having a cottage. And it was always set up, and I would just have to pick up some groceries, drive out there, just hit the switch when I get in, and everything would come on, and I'd be in nature. I'd be able to kayak. I would have all weekend. I would not have to go home until Monday morning or late Sunday night. And I would have time to recharge. I would have time to not sit in all of this guilt and shame. And I was no longer then doing something out of that obligation, but I was doing something that was wild and free. I was doing something that let me step away. And then when I stepped back in, I was so much better. I was prepared, equipped, and ready to take on the week. When the Mondays would come, I wasn't regretting and pissed off that I didn't even get a weekend. I was happy that I had that time. And now I was ready to give 100% to the job in the days that I was there to do my work, into my business. It was like, yeah, now I'm creative. Now I'm inspired. Now I'm artistic again. Now I'm loving my work. But when it became that I had the have tos, or, you're not going to say no to us, we can't make it without you, blah, 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 blah. They're all stories. They're all stories. And they're often stories to get you to master manipulate the energy, to get you to go to trigger the fear story, to get you to respond the way that they want the answer to go. But then when it's going against you, it's not going to help. So here's our treasure. Here's our ship. The ship is coming in because you're cloaking yourself. You're making a choice to choose to go afloat, to go another direction, to take those pieces, those key things that you've discovered, and truly know that they're what you are actually holding on to. And those are the things that you are using that are a part of an investment into you. And it's time to be able to know that this is going to be the shift and the change into that investment, into restoring, opening back up that which was closed off. This fear story, this old energy, all of this, it's like we've, it was as if, how do I put this? It was as if there was a time when darkness was cloaked over us and we believed it to be light, and we've been living in the imitation and the artificial light and that whole system for so long that it became what we thought was our truth. And now we're recognizing that it's not our truth. We're now recognizing that no, this wasn't joy and happiness. This doesn't bring joy and happiness. So we have transformations coming up. And if you were to look at old cycles in our world and in our lives, they didn't end with 12. They often went to 13s, right? Like there was that 13. And I always talk about like that. I'm like, everything is like a clock to me feels like there's 13, because where's the zero, right? Like 0 to me, and I put that in my oracle cards as well. Like 0 to me is just like a 13. So it's that pause time, and we being in several different experiences. So the 13 is that, to me, the way that I see it, the way that they're giving me the message, is that this is our rest period. This is when we either breathe in the magic or we blow out into the world our intentions. When we just say, you know what, I am going to really truly honor this so that I don't fall from grace again. So I don't lose myself in the old way. I'm going to pause and really truly reflect up on what it is that I truly need. And then you're connecting to the soul self and not letting the fear of the world around you to dictate. And that's where our peace comes in. That's where inner peace, when you're at peace with you, nobody can rock that boat. Nobody can, it's not that you're not disturbed by things, but you, and and when you know you're wise, and you know why you do what you do, and you'll know why and when to put your neck out there. There's not times that I don't sacrifice a Saturday or a day or something, but you know when to put your neck out there. So here's another 2 of fire. Here's our 13. And this draft is like when knowing that our way is being guided, that our guides looks up and over. And it's the same thing. If you get into the problems and you try to solve life from a problem state, from a fear state, you'll never be in solutions. You'll always be leading yourself into another problem, another weighted down experience. This is about being able to rise up, to look in, and to let ourselves be guided. Let ourselves be guided by the flame, by the fire. What is your heart? What is it that you're passionate about? And working with your guardians and letting them shine a light. It's like, where do I need to be? Where do I need to be? What is it that I need the most? Where do I need to be showing up? And when we start to let ourselves be in faith, we then start to be able to look beyond and to let ourselves be guided. And so, yes, we have a lot that's happening in the world, but this one is about you. We have a lot that's going on. This is about us as how are we going to show up? Are we going to return to the old? Because the old is happening all the way around us. Like there's no effing way we should still be in wars. The only way that we make enemies with other countries is because we believe ourselves to be enemies, right? Like there's so many other things. And then there's always a dictator or leader that causes that divide, and people pay the price. And there is a price to be paid, and it usually comes at the cost of us. So big ass egos, big minds who are all caught up in the whys to bringing a system into freedom and trying to create that system, or trying to make people be a part of that system, and then fearing you to go back into any old ways, is right? And it's never about the people. And so where in our lives are we finding ourselves responding, behaving, acting that way in our own journeys, in our own lives, that we do that so that we're at war with ourselves, that we create those enemies, or so that we are like begrudgingly being kind. And if you're begrudgingly being kind, don't be fucking kind. Simple as that. If you're begrudgingly being kind, if you're whining, complaining, bitching, if you're doing all of these things prior to stepping into doing something that you've now obligated yourself to, that you should have said no to, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. There's no love, there's no light in it. And you're exhausted, you're tired, you're not giving it your all, and you're not of service to being of service to the person. You're being of service to the shadow self, to the fear stories, to the old emotional way of responding. And if we keep responding from that old emotional self, we'll always be whining, bitching, and complaining. And so then, that's not that the intention, the pure intention is not there. So if you are doing those things, or if you're constantly in that same energy, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. And it's time for you to step up and out and away, and to be honest with yourself and honest with those around you. Say, that doesn't bring me joy and happiness. And if I do it, I'm not doing justice to you or justice to the work. And I am begrudging you, or I'm envious that, I'm here, but you're going off to have the good time, and I'm still left with this energy, or whatever it may be, or that you've neglected other areas of your life, time with friends, families. So it has to be open our hearts to gain new perspectives, to be absolutely sure that what we do with love, we do it for the right reasons, and we do it with grace. We show ourselves mercy. We stop living in guilt and fear. We stop acting like the outside world. And if we all start acting like this new world, this ascension of ourselves into reactivating, restoring, turning on the lights within to discover more of the joy and happiness of ourselves, those joy and happiness codes, knowing that we can still do that work, but we're going to start seeking more of this, then we're creating too much of a noise for us to listen to the fear stories that we're tuning out of them telling us that we are the problem and that we have to stop. And we're going to be tuning that out, because we're going to be in our own little party in our minds, in our hearts, in our bodies. And we're going to be with people we want to be with on the times that we can, when we can. And most of all, we're going to be in a healthy relationship with ourselves. When we're in a healthy relationship with ourselves, we then will live healthier lives, we'll show up differently, and we will start to be able to restore some of this disconnect and divide that was caused because of all that was created out of fear stories, knowing that fear manipulates us. Fear plays into the emotions. It tags the emotions. And when it tags the emotions, then we chase what we've tagged, and we try to claim it, we own it, and we want it. Just like tagging an animal, right? So when you tag it, you tag the emotion and you nail that in, then you're going to chase it. And if you're chasing the fear, if you're chasing the guilt, if you're chasing the shame, and you'll never be fully alive and fully living your truth. And it's time for us to be able to emotionally and spiritually evolve, emotionally, spiritually grow up, for us to be able to ascend beyond those old stories. And here we are. It's time for us to be able to step into this transformational journey. It's going to take time. We got a lot of shit still going on. But even though there's might be a storm happening outside, for you being at peace within you, for making the right choices and the right decisions that feel right, that feel like it's in alignment, you'll be able to know that this too shall pass. And when this too shall pass, we know who we will be on the other side of it. Much love. Thank you for being with me. My camera all of a sudden went blurry. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for staying for this very long message. It was a long channeled message. Whoa, I don't even know where this all came from tonight, but happy to give them out and share them with you. Be you, be true, be honest, be authentic. And most of all, most of your boundaries are also so that you are actually being kinder to other people, so that you don't have that old energy chasing, prior to stepping in. So you don't have to fake it till you make it. You don't put a fake smile on. You don't step in with guilt saying, oh God, I can't believe I was complaining about having to do this and it still turned out okay. If you're honest in the beginning, you would not have to deal with that. Heal your heart, open your heart, new perspectives, see differently, and always more than exist. Much love, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification button, leave little comments, likes, all those things. It's helping the YouTube channel. Also, you can go to CorrieThorne.com, or you can go to More Than Existing Academy, CorrieThorne.com, go in, subscribe. You'll get the most recent updates of when my next book will be released. And you can also purchase my first book, Amazon.ca, Amazon.com. It is called More Than Existing. Much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.